Jai Sachidanand. Now we are commencing the second day of the Parayan of Aptavani4, August 26th, 2011, ongoing in Simandar city, India. And this we start with the reading on page 148 of Aptavani4, the English version. So we commence now, and here we are. Jai Sachidan. I bow to the eternal absolute self who resides within you all with absolute sense of oneness and deep obeisance over and over again. Did you do the Samaik last night? Yes? You can see all the junk, can you not? Yes. Yes or no? Say. Everybody says yes. People were just saying yes or no, yes and no, or nodding their heads. The Samaik is the greatest experiment to remain as the S capital self and to see the non-self complex, the Prakriti, the worldly self, and this study should be continuing all your life. It is a 1 hour experiment, but as you learn to see the non-self complex, the worldly self, that the world identifies as Jeff, Nada, or Gata or Kacha, then you will become more aware and become free from the faults that hurt others. So chapter 19 now, so let us read chapter 19, which is on page 148. The exact path of worship is what we are going to read. Jai Sachidanand, page 146, 145 for us. The exact path of worship, only faith will bear fruits. God is dependent upon your belief. If you do darshan, see an idol, but you do not have belief in it, then what benefit is there? If your belief remains constant, then you will remember God day and night. Therefore place faith, Shraddha, in idols. The idol is not God. Your faith verily is God. Nevertheless, when you do darshan of God, do so with full faith and bhav, devotional feelings. If you make the effort to do darshan but your heart and feelings are not there when you do, your efforts will be in vain. If you wish to do the Lord's darshan in a temple or a derashar, then I will teach you the right way of doing that. Tell me, does anyone here have the wish to do so? Questioner. Yes, we do. Teach us, Dada. Starting tomorrow, we will start to do it that way. Dadashri, when you go to the derasar, say, Dear Vitarag Lord, you reside within me, but I do not experience that yet, and that is why I do your darshan here. The Gnani Purush Dadashri Dada Bhagwan has, in whom Dada Bhagwan manifest, has taught me this method, and that is why I am doing your darshan in this way. Therefore, grace me so that I can know my own self. Do darshan this way wherever you go. These are just the different names that are given. Relatively they are different, but really they are all one, O capital. Deepak Pai says, the God idol is not a God, but your faith verily is a God. It is when millions view an idol of an image of a God, then they are doing bhav pratishtha. They're instilling life in that idol, and so whoever does the darshan, this view that idol with reverence, then this is Lord Simandar. This is the one who is viewing gets the result because of his own faith. Other people do not believe in Simandar or Krishna or Mahavir, then they do not get the results of that. It is on the basis of the inner Shraddha, the inner faith, that really brings about the results. Shraddha, faith, is very critical. When you say this is the Lord, then you get the appropriate results. Some people break these idols because they think there is gold and precious jewelry hidden inside those idols or beneath it, and when they do that, because he is breaking the idols of the God, which is just to get some personal selfish benefits. However, but when those who believe and who have instilled life in that idol, they are hurt, and therefore therefore they are all hurt, and therefore there is so much hurt caused. But you see, these people who are making the idols of Lord Simandar in Jaipur, they are constantly banging away on the marble, and they get pittance money for their efforts of the whole day. So it is on the nature of your Shraddha, your faith, that you get the benefits. And we the Mahatmas are doing the darshan with awakened awareness. Who is doing the darshan? Who am I in this? And who is this idol, and what does this idol really represent? And therefore there is there is a relative result, fruit, and then there is a real fruit, real result. The relative fruit is peace and harmony in the relative, and in this very life you will get health, wealth, and benefits, whereas in the real you rise higher in the realm of the S capital self, and on the path of the Vitarag Lord, on the path of liberation. So we do two types of darshan, and so relatively Katya is doing the darshan relatively, Gata is doing the darshan relatively, Friederika is doing the darshan, but really you are doing the darshan of the one who is doing the darshan. So you remain where you are, and you observe Nada going to the Lord, and so Nada is going down in front of the Lord Simandar. So the relative is doing the darshan of the relative, and inside the real one, are doing the real darshan of the living Lord in Mahavida Kshetra and his absolute self. So this is how it is. Okay, so that is where there is the Purusharth and the seed of Purusharth. Once he said, but relatively all gods are different, whereas by really they are all same. All of them have got, you see, all the gods who became absolutely enlightened, Mahavir, Simandar, or they all attained the self, and so they are they are in the nature of the self. They are, and whoever comes in that state, that the pure Gnan, Shuddha Gnan, is pure knowledge, is Krishna, and that is the knowledge that he gave to Arjun, and that is the knowledge that liberates human beings. And even as he was living his worldly life, Krishna, he remained as the original S capital self, even while he was advocating, fighting wars or doing his worldly duties. So internally they are all one, but externally they are different. Now further reading at the bottom of page 148. He is not starting to read yet for some reason. So is for all of us, even if we go to another God that other people believe in, we can do the relative and the real darshan. If you are in a church or on a mosque or in a synagogue, you can still do the darshan, and you can send very powerful positive impulses to the Christ, to in the church of the Christ, or in a synagogue to the people who visit there, that my dear Lord within all of this, my dear original Lord who established this faith, grant them the energies. Let all of these people attain the S capital self. Next, Sanjay Aptaputra is asking a question. Nirantar means where constance, continuous. Okay, in other words, it is, when you view the darshan of a murti, that means you are wanting only the anavkashpane, means without any other, without any space, continuous. Anavkashpane means continuous, without any interruption, and that is called ankshep. Ankshekapant means, and so he is constantly, when he reviews the idol of the Lord, he is in gnanakshapant. For days and days he is thinking about the energy that leads one to the Lord Simandar. What must he be like? What is he all about? He, Anavkashpane, with non-stop, he is just, yes, he continues his worldly activities, but inside he is continuing with his discharge duties. But that discharge, the one who is in discharge is in discharge, and the discharge is under SCE, And the one who is viewing the murti and of the idol of Lord Simandar or Lord Krishna is thinking about the original nature of the Lord who became so pujaniya or so worshipped. Next one. What is Shraddha? What is faith? That when we read about the Lord or we read about his stories, that we get the Shraddha, faith. What is faith? That is originally it is called inner vision, but there is the gross darshan when you clasp your hands and bow your head. That is the gross darshan. But then then you say, oh, this is Lord Simandar. Then you see the lanchan, the symbol. Oh no, this is Lord Parshanath. This is Lord Mahavir. You see a lion in the murti and at the bottom. Therefore you say, oh, this is Lord. But you see, but then he instills his own very presence into this, and then he gets the samarpan bhav, which is the surrender intents. And so the Shraddha begins, the faith begins through the correct understanding and the underlying vision that is associated with it. I think the microphone of the reader has gone away. They sell the batteries in the remote microphone. So then they are changing his microphone. There's another question being asked. Yes. Yeah, Deepak Bhai is telling all these people who are handing the microphones, be like the wicket keepers. You should be like the wicket keeper in cricket. Expect the ball from any side, so you run there and you give it. So every minute saved. If there are 5,000 people, then 5,000 minutes are saved. But everybody has different levels of faith depending on his degree, right? Initially, then he says, somebody believes in it. Somebody is that I'm a father, I'm a man, I'm a girl, I'm a woman. These are all faiths. These are all. You believe I am a woman. That is your faith, is it not? Then this is my God, right? This God will give me happiness. That is also faith, is it not? And then ultimately, then there is the Shraddha and the faith in the Gnani Purush that this is a human being who is going to liberate me forever. That is the ultimate faith. And so one gets surrendered to the one who is living in front of you, who says, this man will liberate me forever, continuously. So what about Shraddha, faith that gets established and then it washes away and goes away? He says, Gnani Purush is the only faith which will not go away, whereas all other Shraddhas, all other faiths will go away. You see? And say Gnani Purush is the very embodiment of faith. He has got zero ego. There is zero kashais in the Gnani. So he is the embodiment of Shraddha or faith. And so because there is nothing to really come across. But if the spiritual master has got his own junk, then it will break away. So there is an initial faith that is established, and then later on that faith goes away on that person. And so when the faith gets established for a Gnani Purush, then that is the ultimate Shraddha, the ultimate faith that is established. But if one has mumukshata, the real desire to get to know the Gnani, the real mumukshata, the real seeker will know that yes, indeed, this man is a Gnani, is a liberator of all human beings, the ultimate liberator. And so therefore, for us, of course, we do not have to do now. Our biggest faith is the faith in the 5 agnas of the Gnani Purush. And the Shraddhani Murti, the embodiment, the idol of faith, the living idol of faith is the one who is absolutely free from any kashais, she says. And that is why Deepak Bhai says, that is why he is called a Gnani Purush. He is absolutely devoid, absolutely free from any kashais at all. And therefore his speech, his actions, his presence really has an impression, a magnificent impression on the one who is in front of him. Dadashri therefore used to say, we are such that we do not have to tell you to bring faith on me. Only if you are just in front of us, as you listen to 1 or 2 answers of mine, you will be convinced that there is faith will automatically become established within you. And so Such a human being does not have any sparrows in his eyes. His eyes are not covetous. His eyes are not demanding anything out of you. He is not desiring anything out of you. His eyes are not playing sexual games with you, or any money games with you, or any pride games with you. So, you can. Shraddha is a very belief is a lower word. Shraddha is a darshan, it is Vishwas, Khatri. There are so many. We have, in English we have only faith, but we have darshan is the highest level. When you become completely convinced that this is it, then it is darshan. Because Shraddha, faith, can come and go. When you read the book of Krishna, you'll say, oh, this is Lord Krishna. But then as you read something more, then you say, oh, then you read something else and you say, oh, I can't do this, forget about this book. You close the book with a bang and you go away. So then the faith, Shraddha, the faith is a lower level word, whereas Pratiti and faith, unflinching Pratiti, the indelible Pratiti, conviction is the darshan. So for all of us, we do not have faith in the Gnani Purush. We are convinced beyond any subatomic particle of doubt that this is it, and there is nothing else that can change this. This is it. This is the darshan. This is, you're convinced. It is much higher than. And then beyond that there is the samarpan, which is the surrender. That is, surrender is an external thing. Samarpan is an external thing. But it is only when one becomes established in faith, then one becomes surrender. But whether he has the faith or not in the Gnan Vidhi, he does the samarpan. He surrenders everything. Even whether he surrenders with understanding or lack of understanding in the pre-Gnan Vidhi process, apparently, the exception of the S capital self, he surrenders everything. But then, but he, a tremendous new establishment happens. So therefore, Shraddha, the word, yes, we have surrendered, but when you do the surrender with the precise and the exact and the razor sharp understanding, then that is called the true samarpan. You see? But you see, if you watch the Gnani on TV for a year or two, then then you will be drawn to him, and they'll say, well, at least I really need to meet this man. I know. And there are people who come from America for 8 days because they are convinced. So that is the external. The original intent is there. The original vision is there. Therefore, they are here and they come all the way from America on the other side of the world for this Parayan of 8 days. As the conviction increases, as the darshan increases, there is more darshan. Yeah, as the conviction increases, as the faith increases, does the understanding increase? Yes, absolutely yes. Yes. Therefore, ultimately, when the surrender is complete, then there is no separation from the Gnani at all, because whatever the Gnani says, then he says. He says, so now Dada. And so Niruma and Dada example, Dada doesn't have to say, give me a toothpick after eating. Niruma automatically hands the toothpick after the food. That is the nature of the devotion. You see, there is so much that she has surrendered herself so totally to the Gnani Purush Dadashri that he doesn't have to say anything, and there are two souls, two bodies, and in essence one soul. Two souls in one body. So then he says, I think they are reading in some other, and they are reading something from ahead. Okay, so they are talking about something that is not read so far. When there is the belief without any interruption, when the belief is happening, there are a lot of devotees of Lord Krishna. From day and night, as soon as they finish their meals, they go back into the deep devotion of Hare Krishna, the Lord, my Lord. And they are absolutely convinced. You see, And there was, if you are convinced that there is pleasure in sex, then it keeps on getting sexual. One person keeps on becoming and being sexual without any interruption, one after the other. He is never satisfied. Whatever you believe is, that is where your faith is. That is where you continue to kind of dive on and jump on and keep doing with gusto. So a laborer, and the focus said, but when somebody is laboring and is lifting 5 bags on his head at the railway station, then as he is lifting and climbing the stairs of the railway station, he will see the mason, who will say, here is the mason sitting. He applies one brick and then just wraps cement back and forth, and he says, this is so cool. And so in the next life, he moves from the faith of that is in labor, being a coolie laborer, to becoming a mason in the next life. And so then it will come in his conduct. So then then he has got initially he has got the conviction, and then it becomes the conduct. So then, even without looking, a bricklayer, a mason will know exactly how to lay the bricks in perfection without even thinking about it. So this is the faith. So initially there is faith, then there is knowledge, and then there is conduct. So when he becomes a mason, then he sees the boss driving around in his car in the back seat, and he says, wow, this is the good life. He's just by talking on the phone, he is making money, and therefore so this is how he goes on. So Dadashri now changes our faith, worldly faiths, from all the worldly faiths, to saying, just change it to I am pure soul, ich bin reine Seele. And that original faith that is changed, the original conviction is changed, and therefore then the entire experience of the S capital self, separate from that, will come in front of us. So the initial is the right vision has happened, Samyak Darshan, and then once this right vision has been attained with a V capital, where there is no go, but one will become completely liberated. So this is, we have the ongoing, continuous, uninterrupted conviction that is there within all of us who have received the Gnan Vidhi, that Ish bin Raina Sile, Main Shuddhatma hu, I am pure soul, hu Shuddhatma chu. You see, the newly married will have faith in her husband for about 3 to 5 years, until he starts really giving her a hard time, and then she will slowly start losing faith in her husband, and then she will turn towards God. She will become very hyper religious, want to go to God, will try to enter into bhakti, etc., etc. But when you are convinced, and when your faith is established in the S capital self, then your work is done. And so now, if you get negative thoughts or bad thoughts, you can say, these are your thoughts, they are not my thoughts. Here, file 1, these are your thoughts, they are not my thoughts, and you become free from it. These bad thoughts and good thoughts are yours, Shuddha, they are not my thoughts. They are your thoughts, Uve, they are your thoughts, Nada, they are not my thoughts, etc. You see, so you tell, yourself a little. You've seen a temper tantrum of a little boy, that if you don't give the chocolate to the little one, it will just fall flat on his feet, and I'll fall down and throw temper tantrums and bang his legs. So where did he learn how to do that? Just for a piece of chocolate? But you see, but then the mother gives in. But if the mother understands the nature of this reaction, she will not give in to this kind of temper tantrum and manipulativeness of the child. So, but you see, this he has learnt from a previous life, that if I do like this, then I will get what I want. And of course, when it unfolds in this life, you think that it is happening in this life. Yes, you see, the mother-in-law will say that the daughter-in-law is dumb, she doesn't have. You see, but if she says it 50 times, the young daughter-in-law will say, she has a way of yapping and yapping. But then next day, when other members in the family start talking like the mother-in-law, then she say, am I really bad? Everybody is telling bad things. So now then she starts doubting herself, and then when she starts doubting herself, well, maybe I am bad, maybe everybody is saying I am bad, so I must be bad. And therefore her faith is shaken from and there's, I'm not bad, but then from that her faith is shaken that I am bad. Or similarly, therefore, you see, but when you are in the matter of the self, when you are in the realm of the S capital self, no matter what anyone can say to you, you are not going to be affected. This is faith is one of the greatest purusharth. You know, you see, the greatest purusharth is to really the purusharth is to lay down the foundation of faith and then to pick it up. That is what they do in the relative purusharth, in the relative activities to ride higher. But oh, this is my Lord, this is my faith, this I believe in this spiritual book, I believe in this spiritual guru, and then you kind of lift it up, lift it away from him, and you move forward. And so then in a slowly, but it is from the faith. And you see, so then when you take it all away from the relative, then of course you get into moksha. When you have the wrong faith in relative, then it goes into beyond Shraddha there is opinions, and beyond faith there are opinions, and then the bad and the negative and the positive opinions we get layered on the underlying faith and the relative conviction that this is the way it is and this is the way it is. But that is changing and transient. You see, we had discussed in the last Parayan, at the end of this particular last Parayan in December, that some person believed that, you know, it is better to catch rats and then mice and then to feed them to crows or large flying animals. And so then he would do that. But then now when he does it in this life and he gets the Gnan that this is wrong, then he moves away from it. Our entire path of moksha and liberation is standing on this level, at the level of faith. So our faith is now established on the 9 columns, that I do not want to hurt anyone through this mind, speech and body, the ego, the relative nature of the religion, through speech, through words, through sexuality, etc. Will the result come in this life or will it come in the next life? Because it depends how much we have walked. If we have walked already 75 miles and only 25 miles are left, then it will come earlier in the next life, or maybe even in this life. But if you have already walked 95 miles, it will start coming in this life. And if you walked only 10 miles and this life is not enough to walk the rest of the 90 miles, it will come in the next life. Now reading page 148, one shop may be far away, but he sits thinking here about it. Hey, why don't you think about it where you're sitting? He will think about his shop even when he is walking on the road. But no one has religious thoughts as they are going to the temple. They think about their shop instead. Many people have a habit of going to the temple every day. Just because you have such a habit, is that why you are doing the darshan, the worship? Every day the darshan of the Lord should feel new. And at the time of going to do the darshan, the enthusiasm and the joy of going there should be fresh. This is just a habit that one has of going to worship every day. Yes. You should, you do not need to paint just because other people are doing it. You need to find out where you are standing when you go in front of the Lord. Okay, so we need to find out when you need to go upstairs to do the darshan of the Lord, or when you go in front of the murti, the idol of Lord Simandar within your home, or wherever he says, then you go with this kind of renewed energy. Where can one practice dharma? How should one do karma or dharma the whole day? Those whose merit karma is such that work for a couple of hours is enough for a life maintenance, only they can attain dharma or do dharma. That is a kind of merit karma, page 149. But otherwise people are trying their best, they say. Deepak Bhai says people do try their best nonetheless. But actually this is how it should be. That morning and evening you should do the darshan of the Lord, and this is, so when the moment you start walking towards the Lord, as you're walking towards the Lord, you should be in the religious thoughts only. And so as you walk towards the temple, you are actually walking away from sansar, the worldly life, and therefore that is the time of your special time of we ourselves, we all have the moksha link. Lord Simandar represents our link of moksha for the next life and ultimate moksha. And that he is the pratyaksh, he is not an idol. He is the living representation of a living God, living absolutely fully realized to Gnani Purush, who is there in the body of Lord Simandar in Mahavidya Kshetra. So this is the beginning. But we have to do the darshan with upayog, the applied awareness that has been just discussed. What is fresh and fresh? What does it mean? That is, which is all we can say that whenever we do Dada's darshan, there is always appears fresh. There is the energy. Dada appears fresh every time we look at him. Isn't that the energy also? That is the understanding? And yes. So when people say that why didn't you go, that is the worldly intent. But as until I cannot I can experience my own as capital self in its total extent, his darshan is what is needed. And you see, when you have so much ahobhav, so much gratitude and graceful love for the Gnani Purush Dadashri, then every time you see him, you see his image, you are filled with the energy. Because otherwise you are kind of lost in the moh, the illusory attachment to that which is of non-gnan and the non-self complex. The Gnani Purush represents the S capital self, the living S capital self. And then that is called the Ullas Bear. It is full of joy in the relative and of course the awakened awareness in the real. And otherwise, you see, generally the tendencies of the world, the worldly tendencies are spread out in so many different directions, and they are spread out always. Whereas the true bhakti bhav, the true devotional intent is really focused so much on the Lord, or the fully enlightened one, or the Gnani Purush, that everything, it all gets contained from everywhere else and kind of gets focused on these two sources of liberation only. So the other links have to break, and that is why we are arranging all this darshan and all these various programs of the Lord. You see, in the mandir, they ring the bell. Why do they ring the bell in India of the temples? Because why are there church bells? Because they are calling you to the church. They are calling you to the Lord. They're making you think of the Lord. This is the science of the Lord, science of various different types of murtis all over India is the greatest science in the land of India, because different murtis, different idols have different bhav, but they are all intentions that lead to the higher self. And ultimately you get the darshan of the Vitarag Lord, the one who is sitting in absolute purity attained as the self. And so it is your own faith in the darshan that gives you the results. And the understanding is the most. This is a God. You know what kind of God this is? This is a living God. Do you understand the nature of this God? Do you know what He gives you? Do you know? And you see. But if there are worldly discourses going on by the worldly spiritual gurus, about talking about God did this and God this thing, but you see, the ignorant person from the village who comes and listens, at least he has developed certain amount of faith in this Lord Krishna or Lord Rama, who is so powerful, talking about stories about it. On the other hand, then ultimately comes to Lord Simandar, and he says, if he does the darshan of Lord Simandar with a lot of true understanding and worship, his work is done. And so when he does it with this kind of, if he does it with the true darshan, if he does not do a mechanical darshan, he will remain fresh the entire day. Now we are talking about the Vitrag Lord. Now we are talking about Gnani Purush darshan. And then the Gnani Purush has said that whichever way you look at me, you will get the appropriate result. If you look at me like a Tirthankar, then you will get the result that you are viewing the Tirthankar. If you look at me as an ordinary person, then you will get the results. It all depends upon what kind of projections you are projecting. Somebody will say, oh, this is the man with the black cap and a dhoti, and and he's got, calls himself a god, then you'll get that kind of results. So this is, yes, that is correct, says Deepak Bhai. Now, can God be attained through worship? Reading further questioner. Does one have to worship bhakti to attain God? Dadashri say you cannot do anything to attain God through the five senses. It is all indirect or paroksh bhakti. Questioner. It is an imaginary or kalpit worship, is it not? Dadashri says it is all imaginary. When worship becomes nirvikalp, without the ego, then your work is done. Vikalp, worship is done through the mind. Questioner. I like bhakti, devotional worship in everything. Dadashri says, bhakti is your tuber, granthi. Thoughts of bhakti, thoughts of darshan, they are tubers. Sooner or later, you have to become tuberless or nirgranth. If you hear that you will be leaving for Dakor, the place of pilgrimage, to do darshan of Lord Krishna, this is a very beautiful sentence of Dadashri, says Deepak Bhai. This is your tuber, devotion. This is the biggest tuber is like you have to go to the Dakor all the way, So you have to go. Then so let us read. If you Bhakti, so he says, what is it she wants to ask? What is Vikalpi Bhakti? Vikalp Bhakti means this is through your imagination. You see, I am Nada and I want to do this Bhakti. That is called Vikalpi Bhakti. This is do through the mind. You see, but when you say, I am seeing Nada do the darshan of Lord Simandar, that is called Nirvikalp Bhakti, without any ego. You see, through the self. I am the self, Nada is doing the darshan, and I am doing the darshan through Shuddha Gnan, pure knowledge only. So that is the thing. That is called Nirvikalpi Bhakti. Vikalpi Bhakti is done through the ego, through the mind complex. And Dada says Vikalpi Bhakti is done through the mind. It is done through the intellect ego. Oh, I am a Vaishnava, I am a Krishna follower, I don't go to Simandar, I don't go to Jain Murtis, I don't go to Christ temples, etc. You see, so this is so. So, but here it is so beautiful. The relative does the darshan in the relative, and the real does the darshan of the real. That is called Nirvikalp Bhakti. And will it go into the Nirvikalp? He says, if you can does it through understanding, it will go to Nirvikalp. But you see, the whole idea is to do it through understanding. But if you do not do it through understanding, it all goes down the drain, does it not? Here we are doing settling the file 1 with equanimity. File 1 doesn't feel like going to the temple, that's fine, you are aware of it. File 1 wants to go to the temple, go. You encourage that. File 1 is sitting at the dinner table, file 1 doesn't feel like eating, file 1 wants to overeat. That's all. You see, that is all Nikali, everything has to be settled. We have to be, for us, the most important thing is, have we attained the knowledge, and are we really grabbing on? Is our bhakti for the knowledge that leads to the S capital self? Yes, is our awakened awareness such that we are going towards the actual devotion of the self, the ultimate bhakti, rather than the relative bhakti of the idols? So there are some have Jain Pudgals. Jain Pudgals, they have to, Jain Pudgals, when they are in front of the Lord, they hate when somebody is wasting water. Oh, they are wasting water. Or, oh, they are wasting flowers. The Lord does not like, oh, they are picking up flower petals and, throwing in front of stone. These are Jain Pudgals, their mind is constantly involved in the negative. So how does that work? It is all of this applies to all Mahatmas, says Deepak Bhai. Therefore, whatever you've talked, how much of it does it apply to the Mahatmas? It applies to all the Mahatmas at varying levels. He says, so Deepak Bhai says, he's telling all the Aptaputras and the Apta Sinchan people, says, you need to continue your role, or you mustn't go to Bhakti twice a day, even though I, as Deepak, cannot go. It is what? Yes, because you are doing the Aradhana, the devotion of the living Lord who is sitting there up in the temple. So, but somebody will say, oh, they are just making so much noise over there that I cannot concentrate and I cannot do right Bhakti. Then why are you using your intellect? The Lord, but you believe that you are being shoved in front of the Lord, but the other person, you are seeing only the face of the Lord. When you are looking at the face of the Lord, can you really feel as if you are being shoved? When you are doing the Vidhi, you are only seeing the face of the Lord. Does it matter whether you are being shoved or not? But somebody else will say, I hate these crowds and people are just jumping the lines, etc. Sometimes we say that we have to do it with true bhav and intent, and other time we have to do it, because recognize that, the body is being shoved around, but your bhav is yours. Your bhav is the one with the devotion. So there is a separate. Yes, of course, you don't want to be there where, you break bones or, somebody tramples over you. But the original bhakti bhav, the devotional intent, is a very beautiful thing. Everybody should come in line. Let us go. If you can really have the discipline of coming one by one and give the darshan, it's very nice of the Lord. But the moment the lamp of the arati is lit, everybody just kind of rushes to the plate, wants to hold it and kind of navigate it and say, I'm doing the arati with a round word. Then they just, as soon as they touch it, they run away. This is what happened in Janmashtami, just the Lord Krishna's birthday, that it happened. No, forget about what happened to others. Find out what happened to your own Pudgal, your own non-self complex. Forget about what happened to others. Were you able to remain in bhakti of the Lord, or were you shoving and pushing each other? And then you say, oh, that fat lady pushed me, or that fat guy really pushed me, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to now stay away from that fat man or that fat woman. No, you need to really kind of focus on your bhakti bhav, the devotional intent within you. Questioner. When I now he says, if you hear that you are going to go to Dakor in 2 days, then a tuber of going there will keep sprouting. There is nothing wrong with this. It is better than having bad thoughts. What is bhakti? If you have bhakti, it will keep all the worldly diseases away. That is all. It will, say, then because you are kind of gathering your, all the illusory attachments, sexuality, etc. will go away. Questioner, when I read about the path of devotional worship, bhakti yoga, I feel it is worth doing bhakti. But then when I read about yoga, about karma yoga, about the path of gnan, then I feel that too is worth doing. What is that? When Dada talks about granthi, you have to understand this granthi. How do you recognize? When you see, so how do you understand the knot within you? When the supporting evidences arise around you, then your mind gets attached to it, and mind keeps on showing you those thoughts. That is the evidence that there is a knot within, and therefore it is. And then there is some others have sexual knot, some others have the knot of greed, some have the knot of pride, etc. And so when it starts arising in the appropriate circumstances that are happening around, then you need to start being, your vision need to be on the file number 1, saying, oh, now this guy or this girl is now into, now getting involved in money or in pride or in sexuality, or, need to find out. And so now on the basis of that granthi or that knot, is it hurting anybody else? And so if you can melt that ghat, that is why we have these 4 steps and 5 levels. The 4 steps of the cigarette smoking and the 5 levels that have been discussed extensively in previous parayans. And so then if on the basis of this sprouting of this ghat or this granthi or this knot within, if it is likely to cause hurt to others, then you need to curb it and you need not to encourage it. But if it is, so you need to study when it is sprouting, you need to study within. It is your own tuber of pride that is sprouting, and so there are some others who want to clean the house, and so therefore you see all the rooms are decent and clean, yet then they will open up the cupboard and they will take out all the things from one cupboard and all from one drawer, rearrange it, go into the other one, clean it obsessively, you see. And so then if they hear, oh, now Ras Raj, the very beautiful shop in Ahmedabad which has got excellent mouth-watering desserts is open, therefore you see, immediately the planning will start. Okay, you see, so you will find the intellect will be planning of how to really incorporate a visit to that shop when sexual instincts arise, then it will let you enter into deception, and therefore you will somehow enter into deception and try to satisfy your sexual instinct. Or when you want to do something that you, and so in the same, so is the case in issues of pride. When you want to be validated, you want to be respected, when you want to be recognized about something that you have done, that sooner or later you will find overt or covert ways of getting the attention. And so yes, the uday karma, the unfolding karma will unfold, but on the basis of that you need to find what is it that is happening to you within. Yes. Yes, so yes, so I just missed. And in Dadashri used to do so much work for others when he was not enlightened, and then when you see, and he used to do all kinds of work for others. But when his older brother told him that you are the biggest mani, you've got the heaviest knot of pride within you, then it bothered him so much that he totally dissolved it. And he was repentant about it, because he investigated it himself. This is These are 2 or 3 samples of this thing. This is very beautiful inner, and it is from the, so Dada has talked about the Gant or the Granthi or the knot of Bhakti here. Now now somebody is asking, Dada has said, if you have scorned somebody somewhere, then you will have to really revisit that place through aversion. That which you have scorned through aversion, you will have to go back to it and accept it through attachment again. Yes. And you can recognize, for now it is just a file, and the file may go into attachment aversion reactions, but it is not for you. It says, so, you know, this is the Agna of Niruma, therefore that is what you are doing. Now we go on reading. Questioner. The Dadashri says, the whole world is suffering from a disease called Swachand, to understand and do according to one's own intellect. So he makes measures everything according to his own intellect. Questioner, you give Gnan, but should there not be some worthiness or qualification on our part, Dada? And Dadashri says, all these people, Mahatmas, were without any foundation. There has never been anyone who has had the foundation or basement. If you stumble upon the trip or the truth, he says, then that what is, you will not stumble upon a trip in the light. If you can maintain equanimity in adversity, then it is Gnan. Anyone can maintain equanimity in equanimity. I did this, I did this, I worshipped, all of that is egoism. Gnan is devoid of egoism. Ranchorji, Lord Krishna is not wrong. Your worship is wrong. Still your worship is indirect worship. It is secondary worship. The fruit of indirect worship activity is apara bhakti, indirect bhakti of the self, and that of direct bhakti activity, para bhakti, is bhakti of the self, para bhakti, the bhakti of the soul, the S capital self. Para bhakti leads to moksha. All these devotees become intoxicated in the beats and the rhythm of the drums like the Hare Krishna, etc. But you will rarely find someone intoxicated in the rhythm of God. So much of this happens just in the name of God. You know, this happens there. Depending on your underlying intentions, you get results. But you know, if you can really become lost in the rhythm of the Lord, then it is excellent. There are 2 times. So you see, that is very good. But it depends upon the underlying intent. Dada had dual vision. Dada knew what can happen through bhakti, but you know, he had the other unending vision that for liberation you need much more than bhakti. You see, you need to rise higher in the realm of the self through the correct understanding. So you need Gnan as well as bhakti. Gnan bhakti will liberate, not just bhakti alone. So you need both. So Gnana, the Dadashri had the dual vision constantly present. Worship, direct and indirect. Questioner. In the path of devotion, bhakti, do the worldly difficulties represent a barrier? Dadashri says there are 2 paths of devotion. One is indirect devotion, paroksh bhakti, which yields worldly fruits and gradually takes one higher spiritually. The second is a direct devotion, pratyaksh bhakti, a direct devotion of the one in whom the Lord has manifested, the Gnani Purush. Here the work gets accomplished for liberation. There are many obstacles in indirect bhakti. One's own thoughts become obstacles. The path of bhakti is good, but it is such that it may disappear if the circumstances were to change, whereas Gnan will always remain with you, Y capital. Questioner. This is a very, very big sentence, says Deepak Bhai. He says, no, really the worldly difficulties do not come. You know, yes, we have Bhav Bhakti, but you know, when there is unity in mind, speech and body through bhakti, then very good results come. Yes. Question. In paroksh bhakti, indirect bhakti, in indirect bhakti, you know, if you cannot visit a temple or a church, that's fine. But you know, the worldly life does not represent a barrier. Now, but more than that, in our Gnan, there are 2 types of people who gather in our Gnan. There are those who want to understand Gnan only exactly as it is. And there are others who are just into the devotion of Dada. Dada is great, Dada is great, Dada is the most fantastic thing. You see, that is the devotion of Dada. There's nothing wrong with it, but one need to go higher than that. That there is something much more beyond than just the pure devotion towards Dada. You know, Because when you are just in pure devotion Dada, when you get a lot of losses in life, then the bhakti will not hold you. Your bhakti for Dada will get disturbed. Oh, I was a true devotee of Dada, but Dada didn't help me when tough times came in my life. So therefore, when there's when circumstances change, then the bhakti will disappear, but the Gnan will always remain with you. Therefore, that is the most critical. With the Gnan, you will remain unshaken and unaffected. You will remain in equanimity. So, this is therefore, so it is worth keeping that goal. So without having any worldly expectations for any worldly fruits, settle the files with equanimity and enter into the realm of the final liberation as soon as possible. And so this is what it can be done. This is the kind of purusharth that we need to enter into. So we can do arti or 1 hour of Asin Jai Jaikar Ho, etc. That is good. But there is much more beyond that. 5 agnas are that is most critical. That must remain in our awareness. That must be the critical purusharth in our awakened awareness. When any difficulties arise, we are resetting the 5 agnas. Who did this happen to? Who am I in this, etc. So, because the circumstances are going to come, yes, that Dada's grace is for Gnan. Dada's grace is not to remove your worldly barriers. Dada's grace is to keep you in this Gnan and therefore lift you up from any worldly pleasures or pains that may come your way. And so, with this kind of awareness, one will reach the clear and the distinct experience of the self, Spasht Vedan, Spasht Anubhav. Therefore, this is the bhakti of the Gnan or the bhakti of the Gnani. This is called the bhakti of the Gnani. Bhakti of the Gnani is the bhakti of his agnas. Bhakti of the Gnani is the bhakti of the agnas, not the external devotion. Oh, my Dada, and hang on to him, and just kind of. The other thing is not wrong, but slowly you need to rise higher into this through pratikraman. Where did I miss the 5 agnas, etc., and then move forward. Bhakti Aradhana is good, but it has to be through the Aradhana, the exclusive devotion through the vision of the awakened one, the Gnan of the S capital self that you are. We get so many letters where people say the husband has had difficulties, economic difficulties, and therefore they start. They says we were devoted followers of Dada, and now why did we, after Gnan, hit such a calamity and such disasters in our daily worldly life? And therefore they start developing negative thoughts for Dadashri. And this is then we have to say no. This is just fill stock. We want to remain in the agnas of Gnana. This is all vyavasthit. And this is our own karma unfolding in front of us. Who are we going to blame? Okay, questioner. Who becomes responsible in the path of devotion? God? Dadashri says yes. Also, Narsi Mehta, a great poet of Lord Krishna in Gujarat, used to say, Dear Lord, liberate me. All devotees suffer from worldly difficulties leading to inner suffering, artata. He expressed his inner pain, Dear Lord, liberate me from this suffering. Still, such devotion is good. His devotion was entirely and exclusive to the Lord. Whose devotion is the highest? It is of a true devotee. He is not worshipping real God, but he is worshipping the indirect Lord. Still, it is true worship, because it will lead to direct God, the self within. But when can one be called a true devotee? When he does not have any sankalp vikalp, worries or doubts. Sankalp vikalp here means I am nada, and vikalp means this is mine and this is what I want. But then he is a true devotee. When he says that God does all, then all the sankalp vikalp, he leaves everything to the Lord. Whereas one gets his son married, he takes all the credit and distributes sweets when a child is born. But when the child dies, he blames God. A real devotee will leave everything to the Lord, and he will say, Why should I worry, Lord? Your reputation is at stake. Such devotion is very rare to find. One attains the relative and the other attains the real. What happens when devotees say that they had direct experience of the Lord? They see the image of the Lord Krishna within, with a flute in his hand. They bring such spiritual energy, siddhi, from past life. If such a devotee were to meet me, I would tell him, what you see is the image, the drashya, and you are the seer. Y capital should be Y capital, and you are the seer. Y capital in the translation. Drashta. The Krishna with the flute that you see is not real Krishna. The real drashya, the image, and the real Krishna is the one who sees that image, and that is you yourself. That is just the vision, the drashti that has fallen on the image or the drashya. When the vision falls on the seer, then the goal is accomplished. Even the real devotees have not attained this goal. They too are yearning for this. What did Narasimha sing? Jahan lagi atma tattva chinyo nahi, tahan lagi atma sarva sadhana sarva jhuthi. Until one attains the self, all seeking is not. Zero. You see, people see the exact image of Lord Krishna in yellow clothes, yellow garment with beautiful jewelry and a crown on his head and with a flute. And this is what they say. That is the vision of the devotee. And really, but the one who sees the devotee as well as the vision, the one who sees the vision is the drashta, the real seer. And so the seer of the one who is seeing this vision is the liberating vision. Until then, it is the paroksh bhakti, it is the distant bhakti. You see, that is next one. Worship from the gross to the subtlest. In scriptures, in every religion, great importance is given to name. What is the significance of chanting or jap, name chanting, naam smaran? Dadashri says, it is all done for concentration. Next page. For ekagrata. Name is something that is gross or sthul, hence it is bhakti or at a gross level. Then there is sthapana, establishment of an idol or an image. It is called subtle worship, subtle sukshma bhakti. And then there is dravya or actual presence, that is the sukshmatar, subtler worship. And finally there is bhav, the vision is the sukshmatar, the subtlest bhakti. There are 4 kinds of worships of bhaktis. Even reciting Lord Mahavir's name and worship is at a gross level. Then by doing sthapana, by placing a picture of the Lord Mahavir and then reciting Mahavir is considered subtle worship. And instead of doing bhakti in the front of my picture, if you do it in my presence, it is considered sukshmatar bhakti, subtler worship. And then when you follow my agnas, it is the sukshmatam bhakti, the subtlest. When my agnas becomes established in your vision and understanding bhav, then it is considered bhav bhakti. It is something that gives immediate results. Those other kinds of 3 kinds of worships, nam, sthapana and dravya, give you worldly fruits, and this verily is real worship. It is in the form of cash, fruits that are realized immediately, and that is why we say this is the cash bank in the world. The reason is this is called the cash bank is because it is here in the presence of the Gnani Purush that the final and ultimate bhav worship, bhav bhakti happens. Even Nam Bhakti is not wrong. There is no rule about names. For the name, saying Ram is acceptable, but even if someone keeps reciting Limdo, a medicinal herb, that is also acceptable. All it requires is saying some name. When you can maintain upyog, focus, upyog is not focused attention here. Here it is focused. In whatever you are saying, then you will attain, your attention will drift to somewhere else. The attention of the self can not be allowed to be idle even for a moment, and that is why you have to have something for it to keep it engaged. Therefore, reciting a name is not wrong. There is nothing wrong in this world. Nam, sthapana and dravya are all worldly interactions, vyavahar, and only bhav, the agnas of the Gnani Purush, is the nischay or the self. One has done the same thing in the worldly life for countless past lives. He has wandered and wandered, has he not? People have become acharyas, sadhus, sadhvis, and this is how they have wandered around, but they have not found the right path. Deepak Bhai is now repeating this. Deepak Bhai says it's very clearly answered by Dadashri. You see, and that is Nam is chanting a name, then he says, then he places an idol or an image in front of the thing. And then when when he's live in front of Lord Krishna, then that is the subtlest bhakti. And then when he gets the understanding that really this is not the Krishna but the Gnan, the vision of who he really is, the eternal self within him, that, and then receiving his agnas and following his instructions, then that is the ultimate bhav bhakti. That is the ultimate, that is the final bhakti. And now for us, it all, we have said that for us, we when we remain in the five agnas, you are not leaving the self alone even for a second. When you see every human being as the non-doer, as the pure soul, if you see as the relative and the real, you see the SC as the doer, that is the greatest bhava bhakti. That is when you can see the pure souls in every Mahatma, whether you listen to him and whether you see him personally or whether you listen about him, negative or positive, when you can see the pure soul within him, that is the greatest bhava bhakti. You are in the agna of the Gnani Purush, and that is the greatest thing. And they can do that without any kind of worldly obstructions. And that is why this is the ultimate. So this is the ultimate bhava bhakti in this era of the time cycle. Five agnas is the ultimate thing for you. And so the one who comes into this bhav of the five agnas, he is in the nishchay of the self. When he comes into, and he says, the moment he sees a sticky file, he says, oh, pure soul is here. And she or he is flawless. He is a pure soul. SC is the doer. And when this becomes ingrained in your vision, then you will get cash fruits of nirakurta, bliss of the self, as well as harmony in your relationship with him or her. Even next moksha through gnana or bhakti, page 153. Questioner: Is moksha attained through the path of devotion, or is it attained through the path of knowledge? Somebody asking a question. You talked about five agnas and Shuddha Upayog and Nirdosh Drashti. What else? When you must have the Nishchay within, then you must have the highest Nishchay that whatever file number 1 is doing, I want to be aware of it internally. So you should have the upayog over the tubers that are inside, that we talked about, the tubers of kashais, vishais, or wanting to have your way, tubers of willfulness, tubers of greed, tubers of pride, etc., tubers of sexuality, etc. If anything it interferes, then you should just understand. So any interference from external sources has to be seen as your cue to rise higher in your awareness, whereas you are looking at your own inner antakaran, the inside within. So your vision is on the dosho or the errors that are happening, which tend to make you become a nada, make you become a katya, make you become an agnis, make you become a marika or a marion. And so when these errors become free, when this becomes error free, you are able to see everything as it is. The inner pond is absolutely silent, and you yourself are in the bliss of the self. And there was this sentence about never to leave the S capital self alone for even for a second. And therefore, but when you are engulfed in Vishay kashais, sexuality or kashais, that means you are away from you have left the S capital self alone. Is that true? Initially says that Deepak Bhai says, first you need to rise into the awakened, the intensity of the awakened awareness, and then you will come into the applied awareness of that state through the upayog. The upayog will come later. First, the jagruti has to arise to that level. And so when you are hurting others through your kashais in your routine work, then and in your seva, in your service to others, when other people are hurt, then you are not aware because the awareness has reached the level. And so then the upayog that you are talking, which you just talked about, cannot be. And so therefore, but you see, but when you say Dada, when you are doing the seva, the service of Dada, when you are serving, then you will have very high level of bhakti for Dada. But when you cannot remain in the applied awakened awareness of the self, then the next best path is to be involved in some work for Dada. Is moksha attained through path of devotion, or is it through the path of knowledge? Dadashri says, what do you understand by the path of bhakti? Bhakti comes after the path of Gnan, the self begins. If you want to go to the station and you ask for directions, do you not follow the path that have been told to you to take? To follow the path and to follow the directions that after retaining the knowledge of the Gnan for the station is considered bhakti. For us all, we have the Gnan first, and now our bhakti or our devotion for the Gnani and his Gnan and his five agnas is because we have received the Gnan first, and therefore the bhakti is natural, the devotion is natural. The people of the world is the other way around. They have the bhakti, when they have bhakti, we have the pratyaksh now, so therefore we have the direct bhakti in happening. So once, on the basis of, when after awakening to follow the agnas, that is our ultimate bhakti. And you see, that is our goal, that is our station. Our station means the ultimate self experience. And therefore, in order to go in that direction, our bhakti is exclusively the 5 agnas and nothing else. And that is the most critical thing for us. And so that is how we can move forward in that direction. Gnan is the adjective of bhakti. Why bhakti is because we've got, and the bhakti without Gnan is called the ignorant bhakti, where the good qualities of human being, service, donations, charitable nature, renunciation, etc. All of these things are good too, and that is also good. But you see, having understood the real bhakti within all of us, we have to reach all the way to the station of Spashta Vedan, or the clear experience. What is the real meaning, Dadashri says, of the word bhakti? The word bhakti incorporates the intent and the goal. All these people whom I have given Gnan are in the bhakti path also. You have to do bhakti, worship of that whose shelter you have taken. Questioner: so is there also bhakti path in the Akram path? Dadashri says, this is called para bhakti. It is worship of the self. In the Akram path, after attaining the self, the bhakti one does is bhakti of his own self. S capital. The one who is making garland is doing bhakti of her own self, even if she puts the garland around us, the Gnani Purush. Yes, bhakti of a Gnani Purush is the same as doing bhakti of your own self. Until your S capital self expresses completely, the Gnani Purush is your S capital self. Gnani Purush is without internal torment or shalya, having a prasann chit, that which pleases others. Those who come to do the darshan feel the bliss of such a pure chit. The sins of many lifetimes are destroyed with the mere darshan, visualization of the Gnani only. This is very beautiful. Everybody is clapping here. Para bhakti, direct worship and indirect worship. The worship, bhakti of the whole world is in search of, it is all worship through the non-self, through the intellect and the ego, para bhakti. When not even a trace of intellect or buddhi enters into the worship, it is considered worship, bhakti of moksha. Worship should be of moksha. It becomes bhakti, worship of the non-self, when buddhi enters into it. When intellect is removed from it, it becomes the worship of the self, para bhakti. Bhakti that goes on here in Dada's satsang the whole day long is para bhakti, and fruit of that is moksha, liberation. Ours is a path of moksha. When there is not a path of moksha, it is a path of worldly life. When the intellect enters into bhakti, it makes one emotional. It will give him an awareness of, I am Chandubai, I am a blacksmith. Intellect will not allow para bhakti to happen. Here, after attaining the Gnan, there is only para bhakti. Para bhakti is that which is done for the self, for the Shuddhatma, pure self, awareness as the self. If one remains awake and aware for the self as capital only, he is considered asleep in the relative. Eating for the benefit of the self is considered fasting, and doing bhakti of the self for the self is called para bhakti. And so, Annashan is there. In other words, eating fast, relative fasting. Anshan is fasting, and bhakti for the self is para bhakti, and the result of that is moksha, and that is what is happening. And now we can get to realize at the end of this that we appreciate where Dada has placed us, and so then we remain straight in the satsang of Dada at the end of page 154. We will not mess up anymore, we will not screw up anymore, we will not get entangled in worldly temptations anymore, and in worldly riots of and worldly inner storms, worldly inner riots. We will not get entangled in it. So Vidhi, Vanchan, Pratikraman, Samayik. VVPS is a very important. Vidhi is the Vidhi, the Charan Vidhi. Vanchan is the reading of the Aptavanis of the Gnani Purush, and then Pratikraman of the Gnani Purush, and Samayik as laid down for you. Now, this is the end of the satsang for the August 26th, the first session of August 26, 2011. Jai Satchidanand, the first part before the break. Jai Sachidanand Shuddhatma Bhagwan, all of you. May you all attain the vision of the Gnani. Jai Sachidanand. Jai Sachidanand.